the reason why I'm not big on resolutions is because there's no need to wait until the
Yeah.
beginning or the end of the year to fulfill something that you need to do. If you need to level up or if you need to make a commitment to yourself, the best time to do it is right now.
Resolutions tend to be really lofty. More often than not, they're unspecific. And what I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years is that, it's not about intensity. It's about just being really, really consistent. And I find that resolutions for me often fade. And then when it fades, then the guilt kicks in. And then the cycle just keeps repeating itself.
Your zone of genius is where you're in flow the most and you just love what you're doing, and the outcome itself is quite exceptional.
Do you have any, like a challenge that we can give our listeners around forgetting resolutions, just throwing that out the window? Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. It's been a while, Neeks. Welcome back.
It's been too long. Way too long, my friend. Missed you.
Yeah, we took a bit of a break. What's interesting about a break is we didn't really talk about taking a break, but I think we were in sync. Neither of us really messaged, right? I mean, I sent you the occasional messages and so did you, but then that was it. I think we both were aligned in terms of just taking a step back and enjoying the holidays.
I don't know about enjoying the holidays. I was definitely in fuego. I would say 80% of it was probably my fault. And I was like tough to pin down, a constant moving target in a good way. Like we'll get into, the holidays were exceptionally busy, probably the busiest as I could remember. I usually take like a nice 2 weeks off and things are dead. There's no action going on. But I was only able to take Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off, and the rest was just slammed with activity in a good way. In a good way.
And you were in Vegas recently.
I was at CES recently. Yeah, just last week.
I remember CES used to be called, my dad used to go to that show. For years, it used to be called Comdex back in the day.
Yeah,
back in the day when Bill Gates was giving the keynote.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the highlight of his year. I remember it was like the show.
Oh, man. Right.
But I caught some clips of the show and it looked sick in terms of just AI seemed to have taken over CES this year, and the robots.
That's right. The robots are taking over. Watch out.
Yeah. We need to do an episode on the robots, actually. I think there's a lot. That space is developing really, really fast. And It's really interesting, especially what the Chinese are up to.
100%. 100%. Let's do it.
So today we're diving into the topic, which is kind of timely. I mean, maybe not so much by the time this episode goes out. So we're not big on resolutions. We were just talking about this a moment ago, but we wanted to take a different approach around resolutions and really talk about, certain things that we learned in 24 and what we're going to take back in 25. Neeks, why don't you just unpack what you were talking about? Or you said you're not big on resolutions, but you're big on reflections.
Yes, absolutely. First, the reason why I'm not big on resolutions is because there's no need to wait until the beginning or the end of the year to fulfill something that you need to do. If you need to level up or if you need to make a commitment to yourself, the best time to do it is right now and make the change right now. And I think it was Brian Tracy that first insinuated early on in my career that you just need to program your brain and even just tell yourself, do it now, do it now. And I remember him doing this like 1973 video of him just in front of a podium saying, do it now, do it now, do it now. And it's just
I've seen that
stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, right? And he's like one of the most prolific salespeople of all time. And the reason for that is you're quite literally programming your brain to just activate and take action right now. Tony Robbins was huge on it. So I'm a huge proponent of that. That said, the entire world is almost not coming to a stop, but pausing to some degree. So when work life starts to slow down and you're not getting as many emails and it's time to reflect and spend time with family, it's a perfect opportunity to do so. And the reason why I like to reflect and create space for what has just happened in the year is because you can feel it, you level up your awareness, and it really just drives home the fact that you're constantly changing and that you are a process. So that I love to do. I love to express gratitude and, of course, create space for what's next. So that's the rationale behind the reflection.
Yeah, I love that. And resolutions tend to be really lofty, right? I mean, they can be specific, but more often than not, they're unspecific. And it's usually like something like, I need to lose weight, or I need to wake up earlier, I need to start meditating every day. But the problem is, I noticed with when I used to do resolutions, there was this pressure because now, it was associated with this new level of intensity that I needed to live by. But then eventually I wasn't as consistent as I would have liked to be because it was so intense. And what I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years is that, it's really not about the intensity aspect. It's about consistency. And I think this is what I've learned from endurance. Endurance has really taught me this. It's really drilled it into me, which is, it's not about intensity. It's about just being really, really consistent. And I find that resolutions for me often fade. And then when it fades, then the guilt kicks in. And then the cycle just keeps repeating itself. So I love the fact that you talked about reflections, because when you reflect on the past year, I realized something really powerful. Like you spoke about gratitude, and that really has been the fuel to my growth and to people around me. I noticed like the people who are really grateful or take the time to reflect and really lean into what's been working for them. When they look back on those moments, or when I look back on those moments that I've been grateful for, they're not just tied to goals and achievements. They're tied to relationships, right? We were talking about this yesterday. Like I had an incredible holiday season. For 5 weeks, we had family from all over the world visiting, all staying with us. And I had my childhood friends. It was just a really nice time. And there was so much to reflect and be grateful for. So yeah, I love that. So let's reflect.
Yeah.
What came out of your reflections for 2024?
100%. Let me dive into that, but let me round out the point that you made, because I really feel like it's important, because most people feel the lethargy of the holidays when things slow down, especially when you overindulge with a lot of food. So why do you think 90% of resolutions have something to do with work out more?
Yeah.
It's just like really, really broad, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I got to lose 10 pounds because I overindulged at the end of the holidays.
Correct.
And I made sure to not do that ever again, and to work out more than ever. And so it's interesting.
Or the
to
alcohol.
Your point about consistency.
Don't forget the alcohol.
Yeah, definitely the alcohol. Definitely the alcohol. Poison. Bad. No more drinking for anyone. But when you said consistency, that's important, because it's like, and I'll distinguish the consistency of habit versus just the consistency of mindset. The consistency of habit is just, okay, I'm just gonna, even if it's not working out for 3 hours, I'm gonna get up and walk 10 minutes a day. Or I'm gonna hit the gym. At least I'm gonna show up to the gym every single day, no matter what I do. It doesn't have to be an outcome. It's just, this is how I show up every day. And then the second piece of that is mindset. I'm gonna be grateful every day. I'm gonna say more prayers every day. I'm gonna wake up and I'm just gonna be thankful no matter where I'm at. And that's the shift. Those are the kinds of resolutions people need to make. So just wanted to round that out.
Yeah. So one of the reflections that I had this year is around time, right? So, I mean, you and I have had this conversations time and time again, no pun intended, but I've come to the realization that time is my most valuable asset. It's almost cliche, or it is cliche, but it's so true, right? It's not money, it's life, right? And every time I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else, right? It's coming at a cost of something else. Either it be my health, my relationships, or even my peace of mind, right? And so I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I realized that I spend an hour driving to and from the pool where I swim. And so I did some quick math. That's 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month. I mean, what could I be doing with that time, right? I could be spending more time with my kids. I could be writing. I could be resting. So now I'm asking myself these questions, 3 questions. The first is, out of everything that I'm doing, what can I automate? Can I automate this? Right? So scheduling, reminders, workflows. If tech, especially now with AI agents coming in, right? If tech can do it, let it. The second question is, can I stop this thing that I'm doing altogether? Like, can I just stop it? Like, there are a lot of things that I do that I don't need to be doing anymore, right? And I'm doing it maybe because I'm chasing perfection, right? So again, overrated. The third question is, can I delegate this, right? If it's not in my zone of genius, just outsource it. There's this notion to work on things that we're not good at. Now, I mean, I think now we just need to focus on what we're really good at, our strengths, and just double down on it. Everything else, outsource. So I'm rethinking that drive to the pool. Can I train closer, or can I switch to dry land workouts, right? And with work is really interesting because now I'm focusing on that 20% that drives that 80% of the results, right? Yeah. So that was one of my biggest reflections this year is, how can I get more time back? And what I've realized is that in order for me to get time back, I need to spend time thinking. I just need to sit down, look at my calendar, look at what my week looks like, look at what my month looks like, look at what the next quarter look like, right? And just plan. Like, just have visibility into what's coming. And I find when I do that, then I'm far more efficient and I get a lot more time back.
That's a huge one for me too. And I think that goes hand in hand with focus. One of my key reflections this year, and I don't necessarily need to get into it too much because this is a whole episode of why I've made a significant pivot while focusing and simultaneously broadening the aperture of what I'm doing that caters to my superpowers. And I'll get into it. And what that means is being a founder and chewing glass every day and being with your brethren every single day in the trenches is really hard, especially when you're deploying something that's going to significantly change the world and you have high audacity and a big significant mission. So stakeholder alignment needs to be there from the very beginning, but you can get pulled in a million different directions. And so it's really about focusing on that sweet spot with respect to what you love and what you're really good at. And so the big aha for me is that I really just need to focus on that sweet spot more and say no to a whole lot more instead of just being stretched and saying yes to everything. There was a point in which every opportunity looked good, and I would do the analysis and the assessment after the fact. And I'm like, gosh, I just burned so much time chasing after this thing because it seemed good at the time. But I was just not aware, or I didn't do the proper analysis on it from the get-go. And that hooks into your point really, really nicely about planning and just creating space for what is important. And the interesting thing about that is that what's important always changes, doesn't it? It's like what you prioritize in this moment may not be important the next moment. You might be reflective about what's going to drive revenue in the short term versus building for innovation in the long term. So I completely concur with AI agents automating your life, and I'm building a digital twin internally and within my innovation lab so that I can have a mini Nikos show up for meetings and actually like write emails in my voice and train a large language model on myself so that I can actually do a whole lot more things and be that Michael Keaton kind of multiplicity kind of vision. So I completely concur with what you're saying. And that goes hand in hand with what I wanted to iterate on, which was focus.
Hey there. We're taking a quick break from the show to let you know that if you'd like to invite Dirain or Nikos to speak at your next event on topics ranging from emergence and the inner game to the future of AI, we've got you covered. simply email us at info@emergencenowpod.com. Once again, that's info@emergencenowpod.com. Now, let's dive back to the show.
I wanted to double click on what you said about the sweet spot, right? So
Yeah.
the way I think about sweet spot is it's my zone of genius. Like, what do I do really, really well, right? I think that's what you're referring to as well.
Correct.
How,
Yeah,
how do you know, how can one figure out, if someone's listening to this, how can they figure out what their zone of genius is?
Yeah, that's a very important question. I feel like your zone of genius is where you're in flow the most and you're in the pocket and you just love what you're doing and the outcome itself is quite exceptional. So for some people, that's athletics. For other people, that's making cold calls and closing the deal. For others, it's coding. And then for others, it's surfing, right? And so I think too many people make the distinction between work-life balance and things like that. When you're finding your sweet spot, those things tend to blur together, right? Your passion becomes your purpose. And the thing that you love the most, because people always ask, we'll talk about work, and then people are like, okay, so outside of work, what do you love to do? And then I'm more recently finding that it's harder for me to answer that question because everything is kind of blurring together within what I call my craft, or what you say is the superpower, right? So those things tend to really just blur together for me, but that's it. Like, what are you in flow the most, and what process is that? And then are you getting some exceptional results that are also stemming from that flow?
By the way, we need to ban that question. What do you do? Like, we just need to stop asking that question. I think, what
do you love?
I'm getting, what do you love?
Yeah.
Or what are you working on that's exciting, right? Or what's the most exciting thing in your life right now, right? Or what do you feel passionate about? Like, just questions that touch the heart more than
absolutely.
What do you do? Like, we've got to just stop asking that question.
I couldn't agree more. I hate that question so much. And it's just, especially in the West, it's kind of the moniker for like the most superficial question that you could ask. And then the answers are even worse, because like most people would answer that question and say, I work for Procter and Gamble. And it's just like, that doesn't even tell me what you do. You're telling me the company that you work for. So basically you just communicated to me that you're some cog in a wheel that it doesn't matter what you do. So I hate how people.
What number are you? Player 258.
Yeah, exactly. What's your mission in life? Boom, right there. Like, something like that.
Yeah. Circling back to zone of genius. So for me, I find that the way I think about it is, where does my time multiply in value? Where is, like, every minute that I spend, how can I compound it to be, how can I multiply it? How can I compound my time? That's like, if I'm compounding time, then I know that's my zone of genius. And I mean, obviously, does it energize me? Like, that's something that would be within my zone of genius. Am I great at it?
There's practical application to that too, because I learned about this concept from a YouTuber. I wish I could call him out right now, but I think it's brilliant. When you say multiply your time, I look at that as opportunity stacking, right? And so one of the challenges I've had in this last year was being a co-founder and CEO of a startup, trying to chew glass every day, raise money while building the product, while deploying it into market, while doing all of those things. And then having other avenues where that was actually subsidizing what we were doing. So having other startups that wanted to pull me in, and then also having this urge to do something very, very creative. And I was looking at the unlock with Gen AI, and it tapped into kind of some earlier passions that I've had with making art, being a multimedia theorist, and, looking at myself and taking myself seriously more as an artist. And I was like, wait a second, there's something here that's pulling me. And so what is the framework that I could apply to all of these things that connects the dots between all of them, so I don't have to decide just now, but really it connects all of it together in a way that gets me my passion, gets more revenue in the door, perhaps gets investors. And then it brilliantly solves for my conundrum of having kind of this identity crisis being spread too thin all over the place. It's like, no, here is the centralized unit through which all of this can operate. And now I have a team of engineers. Now I have AI that could operate behind the scenes. And that's opportunity stacking, right? So I love that point because it has very practical applications in what you do in work and in life.
Yeah, I like that. James Clear talks about opportunity. Well, he talks about habit stacking, but it's the power of just stacking habits or opportunities on top of each other and really getting them to multiply and unlock that next level. So what's your number one, or what are your top two reflections for the year?
So the first one is an amazing one because it's opening up the aperture for what I'm going to do next, and it flows into one another. So the first reflection is, if you're banging your head against the wall and there are greater signs that tell you that you shouldn't be banging your head against the wall, then maybe you should open your eyes to what else is out there. So that's a big one, right? And it's not about because we talk about resilience and persistence a lot, and there's a matter of just never giving up with stuff. But I've also found a way to not give up on the things that are important, but also, again, find a broader opportunity through which you can do more than one thing at once. And it doesn't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be like, hey, I got to switch gears and do something else. And so a big reflection for me was, hey, let me find something that I love even more without actually having to focus so much energy on something that just isn't going right. So it opens my eyes to something. And then the second is to just do more of what I love. And the more I do more of what I love, the more that I'm grateful for those things. And then also it just tends to open up and attract more opportunities. So not to get woo-woo about it, but everything becomes an opportunity. Every no becomes a great opportunity. Every disappointment becomes like, oh yeah, well, the next thing is going to be even better, right? So going in with that mindset has just helped me enjoy things more. And I've had people, my collaborators, my colleagues, even friends who I know like were going through some tough times during the holidays, and immediately they will feel my energy and they would feel elevated as a result of it, when they're kind of telling themselves, yeah, I'm doing okay, doing all right. But I could immediately tell they're like low frequency. And so going hand in hand with the aspect of flow is one that if you are high frequency, you are creative, you are performant, you are your best self, you are superhuman, and all of those things. And so, yeah, man, I think that just doubles down on what we've said before. So nothing has changed. I'm more dialed in than ever before. I'm more Nikos than ever before. I'm Nikos at 11 out of 10 more than ever before. So all of those things just start to kind of cascade into what you're saying is like the multiplicity of opportunity while double downing on my principles.
I love that. I think you hit the golden point, by the way. Do more of what you love. I think that's just brilliant because it sounds it's deceptively simple, but massively overlooked.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about it, like just do more of what you love. And, I think it was Steve Jobs that had that famous talk that he gave at Stanford, right? That was one of his one of his 3 points was just do more of what you love. And I mean, doing what energizes you isn't just feel good advice. It's just the ultimate productivity hack, right? Because like you said, you'll work harder, longer, and you'll be more creative and you'll be more aligned with really what just lights you up, right? So I love that. I think that's really gold. Another thing that I love about what you said was you know how we look at opportunity as binary, but it's actually never really binary. It's layered. When you think about opportunity, you don't have to abandon one thing to pursue another. Instead, we find overlaps, right? Maybe it's the experience that we had in that, in that last opportunity, or maybe it's a mindset that we're bringing in, or some relationships, some goodwill that we're bringing in. So something that lets you stack, there's that word again, stack that win, right? So
Yeah.
it's non-binary. The thinking opens up more possibilities than the either or choices that we tend to make. Like we tend to make,
Yes.
either this or that, but it's both. It's
Yeah.
everything.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I love that. Stop thinking in silos. So my big one was time. My second reflection was around inspiration. So I spoke about this briefly in the beginning. The holiday season was incredible for me. My house was chaos, family everywhere, kids running wild, late nights, a lot of indulgence, shared meals. It was just really, really beautiful. It made a lot of memories. And something clicked for me in that moment. Like I realized that those moments, the random moments, that were full of love, making memories, connection. I felt like life was at its best, right? Obviously, you're surrounded by family, right? And it reminded me that inspiration doesn't come from the grind. It comes from connection. And the crazy part is that January has been an incredible month for me in terms of, just mental clarity, work, connection. There's been some big wins. So I've built a lot of momentum in January in every corner of my life. And the reason for that, like when I really try to like put my finger on, what's driving all of this, I think it's just the inspiration that I got from, from those moments. And so for me, this year it's all about inspiration. Inspiration for me is the fuel. I feel like I need to keep filling my tank up with what lights me up. And I think for me, it's really feeling inspired. And
Yes.
my best
Yeah.
work is going to come when my cup is full, right? So I'm going to prioritize just making sure that my cup is always full.
100%
Yeah.
agree. And that also has an exponential effect too. What I noticed about being more grateful for what I'm doing and telling more people how grateful I am of others. By the way, Darren, I am very grateful for you. And just with family and everybody else, I noticed I started getting random phone calls from people and saying, "Hey, Nikos, I just wanted to tell you," like people I haven't heard from in years, that are kind of going through it and are having a hard time, or a friend that is recently going through a rough divorce, or somebody that's going through a rough patch career wise and just got laid off, and would come to me for either inspiration, advice, wisdom, and a sense of gratefulness and gratitude because of something I did like way back when. But I
Right.
noticed that this wouldn't have happened if I wasn't grateful, if I was like too
Mm.
stuck in my own silo and not grateful. I'm like, oh yeah, everything is
Yeah.
like just low frequency. Like me being high frequency is now vibrating across and I'm getting it back. It's just kind of the way the world works, and it's fascinating.
What goes around comes around.
Yeah. And the reflections. So we're talking about reflections, but everybody becomes a reflection of you. Once the internal state changes, then you'll see it on the external, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to unpack in what you just said. We keep going back to gratitude, right? It's really the cheat code. I find that, it's not a nice to have anymore. Like you have to have this muscle in your technology, in your life. Like it's something that we need to keep nurturing because it's such a force multiplier. Because when I'm grateful, like you said, you radiate, that frequency, that energy, which just then attracts people, right? It attracts more gratitude. It attracts opportunities. So it's not just about feeling good. It's really a mindset now, right? That really shifts the decision making, the relationships, and even the way, like to your point, the way the world responds to you. Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
And I could see that it's this loop. It's an
Yeah.
energy feedback loop that I get when I'm in that state. So for me, it's all about how can I get more time back, and how can I find more inspiration? How can I feel more inspired in 2025?
100%. And the last thing I'll say about that is inspiration for me leads to creativity. And there is a reciprocal value with getting inspired and feeling creative. Like right now, it's Saturday. I was going to play catch up all day. I think I'm going to take my mom to the Asian Art Museum instead. And I think with that, that's just going to create some momentum through which I don't have to just grind and do crazy stuff that's just going to get me caught up, because there's always going to be more, right? Oh. But you need to create space for things that are going to connect the dots and just be a little bit more fun and creative, just doing what I love more. So creativity is going to be central to what comes next.
Beautiful. All right. Before we wrap up, Nix, do you have any a challenge that we can give our listeners around resolutions, or just forgetting resolutions, just throwing that out the window?
Not to wrap this up too tightly in a bow, but I challenge our audience to be aware and to have the cognizance the next time something hits you in the face. So the next time something hits you in the face, try to say thank you. And the next time you have something hit you really, really hard, I don't want to give bad examples to manifest something, but just the next time you have an unfortunate circumstance, maybe if you don't say thank you, that's fine, but say, how is this amazing? What is at the other side of this that makes this amazing? And just have the awareness. You don't have to have the answer. Just ask the question. That's it.
Beautiful. All right. Until next time, guys, one quick ask. If you are listening to this show and you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. That way you get a notification the next time a new episode drops. All right. We will catch you next week. Until then, stay intentional, stay consistent, and have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Later.
Thank you for tuning in to Emergence Now, where we explore the emerging trends, technologies, and ideas that are shaping our world today for you to discover yourself. We hope you enjoyed this episode and gained valuable insights that you can apply in your own life. If you want to stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media, where we share additional content, engage with our community, and keep the conversation going. Thanks again for listening to Emergence Now, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode.